It was the third year of my engagement to Ethan. He secretly proposed to a young woman, a college student. I saw them kissing happily on someone else's social media feed. I rushed to the bar to confront Ethan. He sneered, "I was just helping the young woman rehearse a play excerpt. I'm not going to marry her." I didn't cry or make a scene. I simply turned around, went back to Ethan's place, packed my things, and vanished for a month. He thought I was just throwing a tantrum and went traveling to clear my head, until the scion of the Julian family sent out the wedding invitations. Ethan, undeterred by the heavy rain, chased my wedding car. I rolled down the window, my face still flushed and breathless from the passionate kiss. "Relax, I've only legally tied the knot, I'm not married yet." Julian wrapped his arm around my waist, asking softly, "So you won't admit I'm your husband until after the wedding?" At 2 a.m., my finger hovered on the social media feed for a full 3 minutes. In the photo, Ethan was in the center of rose petals, holding a diamond ring in his left hand and a stranger's hand in his right. The girl's profile was gentle, and the way Ethan looked at her, it was a fervor I had never seen before, like a fire that had consumed all reason. My heart felt as if it had been brutally squeezed. 3 days ago, he was still cuddling with me on the sofa, watching old movies, saying he'd take me to choose a wedding dress next week. But now, the woman he proposed to, I didn't even know her name. I took a deep breath, my nails digging deep into my palms. The words on the screen pierced my eyes like ice shards, my life's greatest desire, finally fulfilled. At Chloe. My stomach churned with a bitter acidity. I grabbed my jacket and rushed out of the house, heading straight for Ethan's company. The sound of the key turning was exceptionally clear in the silent hallway. Ethan's office was pitch black, only the computer screen glowing, revealing Ethan's open photo editing software. I leaned closer, my pupils contracting sharply. The original file date for the proposal photos indicated they were taken in the early hours of last night. And in the folder in the bottom right corner, there were dozens of solo photos of that girl, each labeled with precise times: 1:30 a.m., 2:15 a.m., 3 a.m. A chill crept up my spine. I remembered Ethan constantly saying he was working overtime recently, yet his phone was always on silent late at night. Trembling, I clicked on Chloe's social media account on the computer. Her latest post read, "Grateful for Destiny's Miracle." The accompanying picture showed their intertwined hands, the ring on her ring finger identical to the proposal diamond. I slumped into the chair, my throat feeling constricted. I dialed Ethan's number. It rang for a long time before he answered, with a noisy bar in the background. "What now? Checking up on me again?" His voice was slurred and mocking, as if he were a different person from the man with the fervent gaze in the photo. "Where are you?" I struggled to stay calm. "Celebrating a new project with friends. Don't disturb me." The phone was abruptly hung up. My gaze swept across the corner of the office, where our joint photo used to be. Now, only an empty photo frame hook remained. Ethan and his friends often gathered at the bar next to the company. I guessed he was there now. Chapter 2. By the time I reached the VIP suite at the bar, I overheard Ethan and his friends chatting. "Ethan, you really just hung up on Alara like that? Aren't you afraid she'll go to your mother again?" I heard Ethan's friend ask cautiously. "She only ever goes to my mother. You'd think she was dating my mother." I only agreed to be with her because I thought I was getting a free nanny, and I could dump her anytime. Besides, now that I have Chloe, why should I care what she does? Ethan put down his drink, embracing Chloe as he spoke sharply to his friend. I had always thought that 3 years of companionship would eventually warm him up. I never imagined that when he agreed to be with me, he was only following his mother's advice, and had already planned to kick me aside. Since my love was a heavy burden for Ethan, I decided to leave him. I stormed into the VIP suite and slapped Ethan. "Since you proposed to someone else, let's break up. Consider these past few years of my sincerity wasted on you." Ethan's face changed. He probably never expected me, who had always been so compliant, to slap him in front of so many people, and then dump him. "Alara, if you have the guts, then don't come begging me to take you back. If we're breaking up, then we're breaking up," Ethan yelled. His close friends, fearing things would escalate, quickly stepped in to smooth things over. "Sister-in-law, Ethan is just drunk and talking nonsense. Don't take it seriously. The proposal was just to help Chloe rehearse her play. It doesn't count. They had embraced and kissed like that, and it was just a rehearsal? Alara, Ethan works so hard managing the company every day, and you're so inconsiderate. Since you're so unthoughtful, I'll take good care of Ethan for you," Chloe said, leaning into Ethan's embrace. At that moment, Chloe's provocative gaze pierced my heart like a thorn. Chloe is right, I really am inconsiderate. My voice was frighteningly calm at that moment. Since you have this kindness, Ethan, you might as well enjoy it. Talking to them further would be pointless. Since I decided to give up on Ethan, I would never look back. Ethan, are you just going to let sister-in-law leave like that without explaining? Ethan said with absolute certainty, she can't live without me. All those times we argued before, she was always begging me to forgive her. Chapter 3 Alara, don't rush off. Ethan didn't mean it, it's just that I'm pregnant, and the baby can't be without a father, so he was anxious to propose to me. Chloe chased me out of the VIP suite. Her voice, wrapped in the jazz music spilling from the suite, sounded particularly harsh in the dim corridor. I stopped abruptly. Staring at the sonogram results in Chloe's hand, blurred by a wine stain, a bitter taste rose in my throat. I couldn't believe they already had a child on the way. You think you can get ahead just because of this child? I suddenly calmed down, looking Chloe directly in the eye. So what? As long as I give birth to this child, Ethan won't abandon me. Chloe's voice had a desperate, sharp edge. I let out a scoff, my gaze slicing over her slightly pale cheeks like a blade. Humph, you're incredibly naive. Are you sure you'll be accepted into the Gu family? Chloe's pupils contracted sharply, and she swallowed hard, but quickly composed herself with an arrogant posture. No matter how much the Gu family values social standing, blood is still blood. Ethan personally promised to give me and the child a legitimate status. She deliberately emphasized the word promise, as if trying to nail down that vague vow as irrefutable proof. I suddenly threw my head back and let out a light laugh, my voice exceptionally clear in the roaring rain of the corridor. A promise? You actually believe Ethan's promises? The way he treated me will eventually come back to haunt you. Before her words faded, I turned and stepped into the pouring rain, the sound of my high heels on the pavement swallowed by the music. Behind me, I heard Chloe's desperate shriek. The wind at the bar's entrance carried a damp chill that assaulted me. I instinctively hunched my shoulders, unwilling for passers-by to see my current disarray. The screen still displayed a message from Piper, sending you the address. Come quickly, plenty of late-night snacks. Piper handed me a hot herbal tea, the rising steam blurring her expression. What did that scumbag Ethan do now? Did he get involved with another college student, or is he having a scandal with a celebrity? Piper's spirited personality was surprising. Comforting. Although I'd decided to give up on Ethan, hearing his name still felt like a needle piercing my heart. Neither. He proposed, but the bride isn't me. And that woman is pregnant. I put down my drink and explained to Piper. After hearing me, Piper immediately stood up, ready to go confront Ethan. What is there to cling to with a man like that? With your looks and family background, men would line up all the way to France for you to choose from. Ethan is barely fit to wash your feet. Grabbing my phone, Piper started adding contacts on WhatsApp. Come on, let me introduce you to some guys. They're all my good friends, and you know I'm a sucker for good looks, so the ones I introduce will be top-tier guys. You should pay attention and chat with them more often. Listening to Piper, I didn't feel as bad. But with her chatterbox nature, once she started talking, she just wouldn't stop. So I excused myself to use the restroom, hoping to escape for a bit. Chapter 4 The mall's revolving door reflected dazzling light spots in the sunlight. I was looking down, checking a design file on my phone, when suddenly a hand forcefully grabbed my wrist. As I looked up, a delicate but twisted face was inches from mine, Chloe, who was now jabbing her dark red manicured finger into my chest. Alara? I thought you were so high and mighty, but you're just old news Ethan got tired of playing with. Her voice was sharp, like glass scraping a whiteboard, and passers-by turned their heads to stare. I noticed the platinum necklace around her neck. Its design was identical to the birthday gift Ethan gave me last year, only the diamond was half a size larger. Ms. Chloe, I've never seen the other woman openly provoke the legitimate fiancé in public before. I forcefully pulled my hand away, a red mark appearing on my wrist. Chloe, however, laughed even more brazenly, pulling a hotel key card from her bag. Last night, Ethan stayed in this room until 2 a.m. Guess what we did? The Crow. WD began to whisper. I glimpsed a camera flashing in the distance. It was the paparazzi. Chloe had clearly planned this. This provocation was obviously a setup. I took a deep breath, and ironically, calmed down. Since you're so eager to be his accessory, why don't I help you ask Ethan if his mother agrees to you joining their family? Chloe's face changed drastically. She clearly hadn't expected me to mention Eleanor. Even though I had decided to let go of Ethan, I couldn't lose face now. The murmurs of the onlookers tightened around her neck like invisible ropes. She abruptly stumbled back half a step, her high heels scraping loudly on the floor. Don't you dare try using his mother against me. Ethan only has eyes for me now. Is that so? I stepped closer, my gaze cutting like a knife towards the platinum necklace around her neck. But as far as I know, the Julian's bargaining chip for a marriage alliance is investment, and the standard Ethan's mother has for a daughter-in-law, Ms. Chloe, seems to fall far short. My fingertips subtly brushed the diamond on her necklace, just enough pressure to make her skin prickle. This diamond certainly makes one look gaudy, but unfortunately, a fake is still a fake. Flashbulbs suddenly flared. Several reporters had, unnoticeably, squeezed into the crowd, their cameras aimed at Chloe's frozen face. Her pupils trembled, her former arrogance receding like a tide. She pushed through the crowd clumsily, her high heels stumbling as she disappeared around the corner. I turned, about to leave, when I glimpsed a familiar figure reflected in the revolving door's glass, Ethan. He leaned against the doorframe, impeccably dressed in a business suit, his face as still as a marble statue. Our gazes met in the reflection. His eyes churned with complex, unreadable emotions, perhaps guilt, perhaps anger, but ultimately settling into a deep, bottomless gloom. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, averted my gaze, and walked straight to the elevator. As I pressed the floor button, my fingertips still held the stinging pain from when I'd thrown off Chloe's wrist. Chapter 5. The next day, I woke up with a throbbing headache as dawn broke. Piper was curled up on the sofa, like a crumpled ball of yarn, with a dozen empty beer cans scattered on the coffee table. Last night, we talked all night, from Ethan's betrayal to our foolish escapades in college, from questioning why to cursing him as a scumbag, until only the alcohol-induced haze remained. I slumped onto the floor, staring at the sky turning pale outside the window, unable to recall when I had fallen asleep. As I washed up, the face in the mirror was terrifyingly unfamiliar, swollen eyelids, bloodshot eyes. The stinging cold water slapped my face, barely bringing me to full consciousness. My fingers were still trembling as I put on my business suit, and I'd nearly crushed my bag strap. The advertising proposal for today's delivery was still on my computer, but the figures of Ethan and Chloe clung to my heart like rotting vines. As soon as I arrived at the company, Sullivan immediately started berating me. "Alara, if you don't revise the Julian proposal soon, the client will cancel the order." I lowered my gaze, nails digging into my palms, and hurried to my workstation. Just then, a steady footsteps approached. I looked up. Julian stood at the office doorway. He was dressed in a silver-gray suit, the subtle pattern on his cuffs glinting coolly under the lights. His gaze, from behind his gold-rimmed glasses, swept over the entire room before settling on me. Sullivan's fawning voice was dripping with honey. "Mr. Julian, welcome." He bowed so low he was almost at a right angle, his hand trembling slightly as he offered the documents. Julian, however, didn't take the documents. Instead, he stepped towards me. His gaze, like a hawk's, swept over Sullivan. His voice was deep but carried an undeniable authority. "Sullivan, there's no rush for our group's proposal. Why don't I discuss it with Alara? That way, she'll have a clearer idea of how to revise it." Sullivan's face froze, and he swallowed hard, but could only force a smile. "Mr. Julian is right, of course, your wishes come first." Chapter 6. Julian turned, his finger lightly tapping the design proposal on my desk. The subtle scent of cedarwood cologne wafted around us. "The imagery of the cracks is brilliant, but the color scheme, perhaps it needs a stronger visual impact?" As he leaned in, his hair almost brushed my ear, his warm breath caressing my earlobe. "For instance, use that stubborn golden yellow from your painting." My heart pounded, and my throat tightened. Sullivan chuckled awkwardly nearby, his voice tinged with embarrassment. "Mr. Julian is indeed a professional, Alara. Why don't you quickly seek his advice?" I looked up, directly meeting his deep eyes. Gone was his usual coldness. Instead, a faint fire burned there, as if intending to pierce right through me. He suddenly straightened up, pushing the design proposal back towards me. "Tonight at 7, come to my office. We'll discuss it in detail." As night fell, I stood outside Julian's office, my palms damp with sweat. When I pushed the door open, he was leaning against the floor-to-ceiling window, the city lights flowing behind him like a river of stars. On the table was the painting, sunflowers in the cracks, its frame still retaining the warmth of his fingertips. He turned, his shirt's top button undone, his collarbone sharply defined like a blade. "I heard Ethan propose to someone else. Did you break up with him?" I stepped back, my back pressing against the doorframe. He moved closer, the scent of cedarwood cologne enveloping me. "I still remember how you curled up on the sofa and cried 5 years ago." His fingertips brushed my hair, his voice low and husky. "This time, you won't escape." I said with a half smile. Julian, I'm not trying to escape. How about I just go home with you? Why? Don't you just take me? I suddenly recalled the rumors circulating in the city's elite circles. Mr. Julian was notoriously indifferent to women, as if born to stand on a pedestal and look down on everyone. At that moment, I merely wanted to use his own game against him, to make the most absurd suggestion to force him to retreat, just so I could catch my breath. I didn't expect him to take me seriously. Chapter 7. Julian brought me back to Riverbend. After unlocking the door with his fingerprint, he immediately pinned me against it. His large hand cupped the back of my head, and he kissed me directly. His gold-rimmed glasses slid to the tip of his nose, and the scent of cedarwood cologne, mixed with his hot breath, instantly enveloped me. I froze, his dominant and irresistible assault on my lips and teeth. The image of him kicking the door open on that rainy night 5 years ago overlapped with this moment, and my heart exploded in my chest, as if trying to break free. His other hand circled my waist, pulling me closer to him. The fabric of his business suit pressed against my skin, and I could clearly feel the fervent rise and fall of his chest. That entire night, I learned what it truly meant to bring trouble upon oneself by speaking rashly. I finally managed to fall asleep as dawn broke, only to be annoyed by the sudden ring of my phone. I looked at Ethan's caller ID on my phone screen, and my mood suddenly turned gloomy. Ethan's name was like a thorn, sharply piercing my still groggy nerves. Julian was still asleep, the morning light outlining his jawline. His shirt collar was slightly open, and faint marks from last night still clung to his collarbone. I quietly got up and went to the balcony to answer the phone call. Ethan's voice came through, arrogant and dismissive. Alara, I'm giving you until the end of today to show up in front of me, or the engagement is off. Are you crazy? Biting people first thing in the morning without taking your meds? I wanted to curse him, but as the words left my mouth, my throat was so hoarse it felt like sandpaper, and my voice was pitifully weak. All the thunderous fury I'd intended to unleash was completely undermined by my raspy voice, leaving no intimidation whatsoever. Ethan asked, puzzled, what's wrong with you? Your voice changed so much in just one night? I chuckled, well, I haven't stopped all night, have I? Don't pretend you don't know what I mean. He seemed to just understand what I meant, and he raised his voice, anxiously asking, who were you with last night? Mr. Ethan, what right do you have to tell me what to do? We've already broken up. A good ex should be like they're dead. He interrupted my sleep first thing in the morning, so I simply hung up the phone call. At the bar, Ethan and his friends, of course, had another wild night. Sister-in-law clearly sounds like she's putting on an act. How could she possibly be with someone else? She's just doing this to make you apologize first. Women, when they throw a tantrum, it's usually because they care about you. Hearing his friends say this, Ethan's mood reluctantly improved. Chapter 8. After hanging up the phone, I turned to look at the bedroom. Julian had woken up at some point and was leaning against the doorframe, his gaze from behind his gold-rimmed glasses as deep as a clear pool. He slowly walked closer, his fingertips brushing my flushed cheek. Alara, that man is clearly a playboy. Am I not more innocent than him? From now on, I want you to open your eyes and pay more attention to me. His voice was low and husky, yet filled with undeniable certainty. I stared at him blankly, my throat dry. Ethan's betrayal and Julian's protection clashed intensely in my mind. He suddenly lowered his head and kissed my trembling lips, as gently as if calming a startled bird. With such beauty before me, my mind stopped its wild musings. I'm far more outstanding than Ethan. Care to consider me? Julian released my waist and okayed down at me. What are you trying to say? I still hadn't caught my breath, and my mind hadn't fully grasped his deeper meaning. Julian took a stack of documents from the bedside table. I know you've always wanted to be a top-tier designer. If you're willing to marry me, you can use me to get everything you want. The mention of marriage suddenly made me clear-headed. Wouldn't marrying me be a loss for you? Do you business moguls also make profitable deals? I asked, puzzled. How do you know I haven't gained anything from you? Hearing that, I thought for a few seconds and then made up my mind. Alright, it's a pleasure doing business with you. When a business titan like him makes an offer, what opinion could a small-timer like me possibly have? After all, I'm the one getting the better deal. But when 2 marriage certificates appeared in my hand, it still felt like a dream. How had I become a married woman, and my husband was Julian? Let's go. Go where? Are you going to introduce me to clients? I asked, excited. Silly wife, first let's pick out some things, then I'll take you somewhere. Julian had a look of exasperated fondness. We need SPF 50 sunscreen, and bug spray, and a portable charger. Julian checked the list as he put items into the shopping cart. I leaned against the shelf, smiling to myself, because I'd always thought an alpha CEO relied on assistants for everything. I never expected him to be so hands-on. As the plane landed in coastal, dusk was painting the sky red. Julian's mansion was nestled halfway up the mountain, wooden steps winding upwards, the evening breeze carrying the scent of sea salt. At 5 a.m., Julian gently shook my shoulder, right on time. I rubbed my sleepy eyes and got up. As the golden glow pierced through the clouds, he suddenly turned and pulled me into his embrace. The sea breeze ruffled his jacket, and I heard his rapid heartbeat intertwine with the sound of the waves. In the evening, a bonfire party was held at H. Arbor. Julian pulled me into the dance circle. His clumsy steps made everyone laugh, but I noticed a blush on the tips of his ears. He seemed different from the man I knew before, or perhaps I was only just beginning to understand him. Over the next month, he took me to the Arctic to see penguins, to Switzerland to ski, to all the places I wanted to go. Life seemed to be moving forward. Chapter 9. A month later, we finally returned home. The cafe's glass windows reflected the fierce summer sun. I sat across from Piper, who stared at me, her eyes a mix of anger and worry, the spoon stirring her coffee almost shattering the cup. "You just told me you got married, then vanished for a month. I thought you'd been kidnapped." Piper slammed her spoon onto the table, coffee splashing over the rim. I instinctively hunched my shoulders. This reaction was more intense than I'd expected. I took a deep breath and grasped her trembling hand. "Oh, Piper, I didn't mean to go out of touch. Julian took me out of the country that very day, and I didn't even get a local phone card." My throat was dry, and my voice dropped, and after that, I just didn't have time every day. Piper abruptly pulled her hand away, her eyes widening even further. "What? Julian? You mean the scion of the Julian family, the heir to Julian?" She abruptly stood up, her chair scraping loudly on the floor, drawing glances from several tables nearby. I hastily raised my hand to cover her mouth, my fingertips feeling her quick, warm breath. I whispered urgently, "Shh, keep your voice down. He's my high school classmate. We hadn't been in touch for 5 years. We reconnected through a work project, and he became my client. We're essentially secretly married. You're the first person I've told, so you absolutely have to keep this a secret." "Okay, absolute secrecy. You wouldn't believe how much has happened this past month. Ethan told his entire family he was canceling his engagement to you and was going to marry CHL. "OE." Piper's voice held a hint of urgency. I merely glanced indifferently at the phone screen in her hand. The news headline was glaring, but it no longer stirred any ripples in my heart. "Really?" I let out a soft laugh, draining the lukewarm coffee in my cup. The bitterness spread on my tongue, yet it couldn't touch the calm in my eyes. "That's good, then. At least he found someone he wants to spend his life with." Piper stared at me, astonished, as if in disbelief. "Alara, do you really have no feelings for him left?" "Perhaps there was once hope, but those hopes have been completely eroded by repeated disappointments," I said slowly, my fingertips unconsciously tracing the wedding ring on my ring finger. Piper was silent for a moment, then finally sighed softly. "Then what are you and Julian planning to do?" When was mentioned, a gentle smile unconsciously appeared on my lips. He took me abroad to get married simply to give me a fresh start. And now, I've thought it through, the past engagement is a distant memory. Now, I just want to walk this path with him. I'll announce our marriage at the right time. Chapter 10. Ethan, somehow learning of my return, re-entered my peaceful life like a lingering, persistent old dream. That day, as I stepped out of the company, I saw him leaning against his car, impeccably dressed in a business suit. Yet the composure he once had faded from his eyes. Instead, there was a weary stubbornness. "Elara." His voice was hoarse when he called my name, as if it had traveled across countless mountains and rivers. "Mr. Ethan, can I help you?" I asked politely, the deliberately distant address acting like an invisible barrier. His fingers froze in midair, and he swallowed hard. I want to talk to you. About the engagement, about Chloe, and about the month you disappeared." I let out a soft laugh, the sunlight falling on my shoulder, yet unable to warm my heart. "Mr. Ethan, I've moved past what happened. You and Chloe are perf. CTLY matched, and I sincerely wish you well. As for why I disappeared," I paused slightly, my fingertips unconsciously tracing the wedding ring on my ring finger. Its platinum sheen grew colder in the sunlight. "It's none of your business." He suddenly grabbed my wrist, his grip so strong it made my wrist ache. "Alara, do you have another man?" I forcefully pulled my hand away, stepping back, my voice as calm as ice. "Mr. Ethan, your wedding with Chloe is imminent. why bother dwelling on the past here? Ethan's pupils contracted sharply. He stepped closer, the fabric of his business suit brushing my ear. Alara, don't play dumb. I came to you this time, just take the out I'm giving you. If you overdo this act, you won't be able to salvage it. His fingers gripped my jaw, so hard my tooth roots ached. The streetlights cast his silhouette in fluctuating light and shadow, like a beast on the verge of losing control. I pressed my tongue against the aching roots of my teeth, then abruptly yanked my hand away, so forcefully that he stumbled back half a step. I looked up, directly into the anger in his eyes, and suddenly let out a soft laugh. And out? Does Ethan think I'm still the woman who would kneel and beg for your crumbs? With that, I turned and walked away decisively. The cold wind ruffled my hair, sweeping past my neck and carrying away the last bit of warmth. Behind me, his suppressed roar echoed, but I had already left it behind, as if crushing a rotten past beneath my feet. That evening, Piper invited me to dinner at the gala hall to celebrate my newlywed status. Piper pulled me quickly through the lobby, her heels clicking rapidly and crisply on the marble floor. Alara, I've booked the VIP suite. The suite on the top floor, with an amazing view. Tonight, we're drinking until we drop. As she spoke, she rummaged through her bag for a hotel key card, then slapped her forehead. Darn it. I forgot to grab that vintage champagne from your car. Julian specifical. LY prepared it. I chuckled and pressed her hand. What's the rush? It's the thought that counts. We can get the champagne later. Just then, the elevator doors chimed open, and two figures walked out. It was Mason, Ethan's friend. Chapter 11. Mason recognized me immediately, a flash of surprise in his eyes, quickly replaced by a smile. Sister-in-law, long time no see, what a coincidence. Are you here to pick up Ethan? He just had too much to drink and needs looking after. Piper abruptly tightened her grip on my arm and scoffed. Mr. Mason, I think you're mistaken. Alara is here tonight to celebrate an important day, and it has nothing to do with this Mr. Ethan. Mason just thought I was still throwing a tantrum. Ethan certainly messed up, but you two have so many years of history, you can't just end it, can you? I'll have Ethan explain everything to you properly. No need. I don't want to see him again. After saying that, I pulled Piper and turned to leave. The heavy wooden door of the VIP suite was urgently pushed open by Mason. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his voice held a hint of urgency. Ethan, I saw sister-in-law. She must be here for you. Before his words faded, Ethan had already risen from the sofa. His fingertips traced the rim of a crystal glass, red wine rippling within. A confident smirk played on his lips. I knew she'd come looking for me. She couldn't stay away for even a day. Did hear about canceling the engagement and rush back to the country, tail between her legs? Ethan, she really is madly in love with you, Mason chuckled nearby. He loosened his tie, a confident smirk playing on his lips. If she apologizes properly today, I'll forgive her. It'll save her the trouble of complaining to my mother. Ethan's words echoed in the luxurious VIP suite, his confidence like an impenetrable fortress. However, time passed minute by minute, and I still didn't appear. Mason's smile gradually froze, a hint of doubt flashing in his eyes. Go see WHI. VIP suite she's in, Mason said, immediately standing up. He returned shortly. Ethan, they're gone. Ethan abruptly stood up, clutching the crystal glass tightly, almost spilling the red wine. What? His voice was filled with surprise and anger. She dared to just leave like that? A complex emotion surged in Ethan's heart. He couldn't understand why Alara was so resolute. He had always believed Alara's love for him was humble yet passionate, that she would abandon all pride for him. But now, her actions were completely contrary to his expectations. She must be playing hard to get, Ethan sneered, trying to convince himself. But deep down, there was a nameless unease. Chapter 12. I sat in Julian's car, my fingertips unconsciously tracing my wedding ring. The city lights of Beijing raced past the car window. I turned to look at the man beside me. He was focused on driving, his profile outlined in silver by the moonlight. What are you thinking about? Julian suddenly asked, his voice carrying the coolness of the night wind. I chuckled, rolling down the window slightly. I remember when I first met you in high school, I always thought you were like an iceberg. Until I saw you smile once. The night wind ruffled her hair. Julian reached out and tucked it behind her ear, his touch so gentle as if afraid to disturb a butterfly. And now? His eyes glinted with amusement, his fingertips still resting on her cheek. Now. I looked at his eyes, so close, and suddenly leaned in to kiss his lips. Julian paused for a moment, then deepened the kiss. The temperature inside the car quietly rose, until my phone suddenly rang. I pulled back and sat up straight. Piper's name was on the screen. After answering, Piper's boisterous voice came through. Alara. Guess who I saw? That scheming manipulator Chloe was trying on wedding dresses at a bridal boutique. And it was even the one you went to. My pupils contracted sharply, and my nails dug deep into my palms. Julian held my hand. His grip gentle yet firm. I took a deep breath, my voice as calm as ever. Piper, don't worry about her. We should prepare for our wedding. Julian specifically commissioned the international master Lewis to design my wedding dress, and the initial draft has already been sent. Piper chuckled. Okay, I'll contact the venue decorating team right now to make sure every detail is perfect. Ethan sat on the sofa in the bridal boutique, gazing at Chloe's figure. She was posing in front of a mirror, her face beaming with triumph. Mr. Ethan, are you satisfied with this wedding dress? The sales assistant's fawning voice asked. Ethan, however, seemed to have had the soul drained from him. His mind replayed the scene of Alara trying on wedding dresses before, her in that simple white wedding dress, its skirt flowing like moonlight on grass, her fingertips trembling slightly as she gently traced the lace trim. At that time, she turned and asked him, Ethan, do I look good in this? Her voice was so soft, as if afraid to shatter her own dream. But now, Chloe's wedding dress was like a burning flame, dazzlingly extravagant. Chapter 13, Take that wedding dress off. Ethan's voice was as cold as falling icicles. The bridal boutique instantly fell silent. Chloe's smile froze on her face, her distorted expression reflected in the mirror, as if a bucket of cold water had extinguished all her triumph. The sales assistants exchanged glances, not daring to breathe. Only was visible, his fingertips still clutching the hem of Alara's simple white wedding dress. The lace trim was wrinkled from his grip, yet he held it as if it were his last straw of salvation. Chloe abruptly turned, her high heels stomping loudly on the floor. Ethan, are you insane? I'm the one you're marrying, and now you're telling me to take off the wedding dress? She tugged at the skirt, the diamond embellishments dazzling under the lights, yet they couldn't illuminate the panic in her eyes. Ethan, however, was ALR. Edie stepping closer, his impeccably suited figure exuding a biting chill. Every step crushed her feigned bravado. Mary? Ethan approached step by step, his gaze sweeping over her carefully applied makeup, and he scoffed. He swallowed hard, suddenly feeling sickened. Chloe, there was never any marriage between us. It was merely a game of mutual benefit. Now, the game is over. His voice was as cold as a poisoned blade, laced with a crushing finality. Chloe's pupils contracted sharply, her meticulously applied makeup cracking as she trembled. Her high heels stomped heavily on the floor, letting out a primal scream. Ethan, you bastard. I'm pregnant with your child, and you're saying the wedding is off, that you regret it? That you've realized Alara is the one you love? But will never look back at you again. Chloe suddenly burst into manic laughter, her voice tearing through the rainy air, her nails digging deeply into her palms. You think you're so devoted? If I hadn't forged that sonogram results, if I hadn't used a child to force you into marriage and compel Alara to break up with you, you still wouldn't have understood your own heart. I was simply giving you a taste of your own medicine. Neither of us deserves love. Ethan's eyes widened sharply. He staggered back 2 steps, the light illuminating his ashen face. What did you say? The sonogram results were fake? Why? Why? He roared, his voice distorted by the pouring rain, like a wounded beast. Suddenly turning, he stumbled headlong into the rain, his drenched suit clinging to his body, water seeping into his shoes, each step as heavy as lead. He had to find her, find Alara. Even if it took the rest of his life, he needed to ask her directly, could they start over? Chapter 14 The wedding car procession moved slowly through the rain, the red wedding ribbons and flowers blurring into indistinct marks on the car windows. Alara watched the hotel receipt in the rearview mirror, finally releasing her tight, white-clutched wedding dress. The lingering tremor in her fingertips had not yet subsided when Julian's comforting voice reached her ears. Alara, don't worry. Nothing will go wrong with our wedding. Julian's voice was low and firm, his palm covering her slightly cold hand, warmth seeping through the thin veil like a silent barrier, keeping out all the turmoil. Suddenly, Alara's phone vibrated. Piper was calling. Ethan is on his way to the wedding. He kept pestering me for information about you, and I really had no choice but to tell him. Be careful, he seems quite unstable right now. Before finished speaking, a screech of brakes suddenly tore through the rain. In the rearview mirror, a black Maybach, like a runaway beast, crashed through the guardrail, its tires screeching on the wet pavement. Ethan's figure burst from the rain, his suit soaked through, hair plastered wildly to his forehead. He stumbled towards the wedding car, slamming his hands against the window. Alara! Stop. Please, just give me a chance to explain. His roar mingled with the sound of the rain. Julian's brow furrowed slightly. His long fingers already pressed the central lock button, and the car window slowly rose, isolating Ethan's disheveled state behind the cold glass. The air pressure inside the car plummeted. Alara took a deep breath and pressed the window down button. Cold rain instantly splashed her face, but it couldn't extinguish the clarity in her eyes. Explain? Her voice was colder than the rain. Ethan, the explanation you owe me should have been given long ago. You used a ring and an empty wedding to trap me in your self-orchestrated charade of devotion. Raindrops snaked down the car window, fracturing his face into a broken puzzle. Today is the day I start living again. Your explanation is utterly worthless. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed violently as he tried to speak, but he was interrupted by the blaring of horns. The convoy behind them had fallen into chaos because of his collision, and guests' exclamations rose one after another. He suddenly clung to the car door like a madman, his nails scratching savage marks into the paint. Alara, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Chloe manipulated me. She forged the sonogram results to force me into marriage. I never wanted to hurt you. His roars shattered in the rain, but they were no match for Julian's single press of the window up button. The glass sealed off the sound, permanently burying the entanglement of the past. Julian suddenly leaned over, his warm breath brushing Alara's ear. Alara, look ahead. His fingertip pointed out the car window. At the end of the rainy street, a church steeple faintly emerged from the mist, colored lights outlining Julian Alara, like a vow stretching across time. Ethan suddenly chased after Alara's wedding car like a madman. Alara, you can't be so heartless. Before he finished speaking, an out-of-control truck barreled out from a side road, its blinding headlights illuminating his suddenly pale face. Ethan's figure, like a broken kite, was struck by the runaway truck, arcing a crimson streak through the air before finally plunging into a muddy puddle ravaged by the downpour. Blood mixed with rain spread out. Guest screams intertwined with police sirens. In the rearview mirror, the figure who had once caused Alara such profound heartache was being swallowed by the ambulance's red light, like a nightmare finally drawing to a close. Chapter 15. The hospital's disinfectant scent was pungent. Julian stood with Alara outside the ICU ward, looking through the glass at Ethan, who was hooked up to tubes. His right leg, where it had been amputated, was wrapped in thick bandages, and the purple bruises on his face hadn't faded. The regular rise and fall of the ventilator's sound was his only sign of life at that moment. The nurse said that after he woke up, he repeatedly mumbled Alara's name, even pulling out his drip to get out of bed, only calming down after the doctor administered a sedative. Alara, please, just see me. When pushed open the ward door, Ethan was clutching the bedsheet tightly with his remaining left hand, his voice hoarse as sandpaper. His unfocused pupils constricted sharply the moment he saw her, and the ventilator emitted an urgent alarm. Alara instinctively took half a step back, but he reached out with a struggling hand and grabbed her skirt hem, his fingertips cold and trembling, like a dying person grasping at a last straw. Let go, Alara said coldly, her fingertips digging into her palm as she tried to pull free. But he buried his face in the folds of her skirt, tears mixed with bloodstains spreading dark red. I was wrong. Truly wrong. That report was fake. I didn't know you. He coughed violently, blood rising in his throat. The ventilator shrieked wildly, and the heart rate line on the monitor suddenly surged then plummeted. Alara froze, watching his breakdown. The emotions surging within her were not the satisfaction of revenge, but an absurd sorrow. Ethan, who had once been so condescending, crushing her dignity, now resembled a trapped beast with broken wings, struggling desperately in the mire of regret. Beneath his amputated right leg, the empty pant leg cast a shadow on the stark white bedsheet, like fate's ultimate judgment on his lies. Ethan, what makes you think I would forgive you? Alara leaned down, gazing into his bloodshot eyes, her voice as soft as a sigh. You shattered not just your leg, but my last shred of hope. What we had between us died completely in the torrential rain the moment you chose to trap me with your lies. Alara slowly pulled back her skirt. The moment the fabric slipped from his fingertips, he let out a trapped animal's whimper, and the heart rate line on the monitor suddenly flatlined. She turned and walked away. Sunlight from the end of the corridor slanted in, spreading a warm yellow path beneath her feet. Behind her, the hurried footsteps of doctors and the clamor of machines faded, and Alara finally heard the sound of ice cracking somewhere deep within her heart. It turned out that hatred, just like love, would melt into a bitter pool of stagnant water under the sunlight of truth. Let's go home." Julian's warm breath brushed Alara's ear, his voice tinged with a lingering hoarseness. "Alara, from now on, I will protect your future." Chapter 16. Under the fluorescent lights of the conference room, Alara's laser pointer drew precise lines on the screen, the rhythm of her fingertips exactly as it had been when she drew flowcharts on the whiteboard in high school. Julian toyed with his pen, recalling how she always got marker dust on her sleeves back then. Designer's proposal is quite complete, but the data support for the module is somewhat weak. Julian intentionally threw the question at the part she cared about most. As she turned, her hair brushed Julian's documents, bringing a faint wisp of jasmine, identical to the floral scent mixed with disinfectant in the school nurse's office back then. Hers apple bobbed, as if her voice was caught by memories. Julian rose and walked behind her, the light from the projector dancing between them. "I remember that lab accident in senior year, you even adjusted the tourniquet's tightness 3 times. Julian's voice was low, audible only to her. Her shoulders stiffened, the pen's tip dragging a trembling line across the screen. Julian noticed a faint scar on the web of her right hand, left from when she shielded him from broken glass back then. She had never deliberately hidden it over the years. "Julian, those were just things from our student days." She tried to create distance, but tripped on her high heel as she turned. The moment Julian reached out to steady her, he felt the frantic pulse in her wrist. Memories suddenly surged forth. That year, cold air seeped through the school nurse's office window. She knelt on the floor, focused intently on wrapping a bandage for him, her stray hair blown by the wind, falling into the iodine bottle. In the flickering light of the swirling liquid, his heart inexplicably fluttered. Suddenly, the conference room computer crashed with a blue screen. She instinctively pulled out a spare USB drive. Julian watched her focused profile as she adjusted the equipment, then suddenly pressed the projector's off button. In the darkness, only her computer screen remained lit, its glow outlining her trembling eyelashes. "Some data, you need to be closer to see clearly." Julian leaned closer to her ear, his voice tinged with amusement. She turned sharply, their noses almost touching. His reflection was mirrored in her pupils. After high school graduation, Julian's family sent him to study abroad. Nights in a foreign land were always especially long. His longing grew like a vine in his heart, yet he could only send faint concerns across time zones and screens. On graduation night, because she and Piper hadn't been accepted into the same university and were separated by distance, she cried all night. Later, Julian saw her curled up in the corner of the sofa, tears soaking the pillow, her shoulders trembling slightly, like a leaf drenched by wind and rain. In that moment, the bitter ache surging in Julian's chest almost drowned him. She was so sad, but those tears weren't for him. He couldn't even find a position to comfort her, only letting that bitterness ferment into silent jealousy in the quiet night. The moment his thoughts were pulled back to reality, Julian stepped back half a pace and signed the agreement, intentionally smudging the ink into a blurred trail, like the doodle she had drawn on his bandage all those years ago. As walked out of the conference room, waiting for the elevator, he suddenly spoke. The window in the school nurse's office, it never closed properly back then. His voice was as soft as a sigh. She froze, her fingers clenching the pen. The elevator chimed open, but Julian pressed the door-hold button, trapping her in the confined space. "Every time you changed my dressing, the cold wind would always lift the hem of your clothes." Julian took half a step closer. Her back pressed against the cold metal wall, her breathing becoming erratic. She tried to turn her head away, but Julian's thumb traced the mole behind her ear. "Now, it's my turn to get close." Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section, and we welcome your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. See you next time.